Hello and welcome to A Stitch in Time. Today is Thursday, April 12th, 2018, and this is episode 55. My name is Carol and I am known as Knits and Pearls on Ravelry. The show notes for this and every episode can be found on the blog and also in the episode thread in the Ravelry group. If you'd like to reach me, you can do so via a private message on Ravelry or by leaving me a comment on YouTube, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. Thanks for joining me today. In truth, I wasn't sure if I was even going to record this week. As you can probably hear in my voice, I've been down with a cold and I'm still not feeling my best, but I really didn't want to miss recording. So this is definitely a take me as I am episode. I'm kind of flying by the seat of my pants. I haven't prepared any show notes to work off of. And minimal makeup. Here I am, warts and all. But I'm here. I do want to thank everyone who did reach out to me this past week. I have answered a couple of private messages, but I'm sorry I haven't commented on any of the comments on YouTube or in Ravelry, but I have read them and I do appreciate them very, very much. So I do have a few projects to talk about this week, so let's just jump right in, shall we? Oh, first I want to show you my beautiful new cup that arrived yesterday from David's Tea. I talked about ordering this last week. It's a little bit different than I thought. They called it pink and it's more of a peachy color, but I think the flowers are very pretty and it's just a really nice size. I'm drinking some coffee, and I don't know how to say it, puree. It's a kind of tea that has coffee beans in it. So I'm not a real coffee drinker other than the occasional dessert coffee or, flavored coffee from Starbucks or something. But I do like coffee flavor in like chocolates. And this is a nice a dish. I like it in this tea. I had discovered it in my advent calendar this past year. And so I did buy a little package of it to have once in a while. So yeah, I recommend it if you do like coffee flavor, and it's got obviously less caffeine than a real cup of coffee. I've just never been able to really like coffee all on its own. I've tried it a number of times, but this is, like I say, a nice kind of happy medium. And it feels really good on my throat. So I did finish one project, which is my Titania Socks, or what I've been calling my Titania Socks. Whoops. There we go. They look a little bit big on the sock blockers, but they're not too bad on, although the yarn is a little bit thicker than a regular fingering weight, I would say. I did knit them on, I think, a 2.25 millimeter needle, where I usually use a 2, and I cut my stitches down to 60 instead of 64. I just love this kind of spring green yarn with little flecks of blue and black. The yarn I've showed before, Storytime fibers, in the Once Upon a Sock in the Titania colorway. And then the heels were some leftover Tree Hugger's Wife in the asparagus colorway, and I had made, I think I made a pair of socks out of them. I'm sure it was a pair of socks quite a long time ago. So anyway, there you go. Got something finished. I haven't yet cast on a new pair of stockinette socks, in part because I do have some projects on the go that are in a stockinette stage, and so I haven't felt that same need for a pair of socks, but I would like to get another pair cast on pretty soon. I do like to have them on hand for just, they're easy to grab and go in the car or watch TV or something. I do have a new project to show you, and that is the Magnolia Socks by Helen Stewart. And that's the second sock pattern in the Handmade Sock Society. And I know I talked about this last week, and I showed you a couple of the yarns I was considering, and I actually cast these on and tried them. None of those yarns, but I tried several other yarns and just wasn't satisfied, and I finally settled on this yarn, and it's from Cherry Tree Hill. It's a Super Sock Solids in the Blossom colorway. And it's, I believe this is the Luette Gems yarn base. It's not even really tonal. It's just a very sort of plain pink. But you know, our magnolias, the magnolias that, you know, people have in their gardens and such, are all in bloom right now, and I keep driving around and looking at the different colors and really wanted to pick a color that was really representative of a magnolia, and this is what leaped out at me anyway. It's not very exciting because it's not really tonal or anything, so it's not the most exciting yarn to knit with, but I do think it's a good complement to the pattern. Definitely the you know, the pattern itself shows up really nicely in this yarn, and the color is quite representative of a magnolia. So you know, I think it works. It's just not exactly what I had pictured, I guess. Like I am easily bored and I always find even a tonal yarn helps keep my interest more than just a plain yarn. So I'm hoping I don't struggle with that issue. I just cast these on last night and worked on them while I was watching TV. The back is just plain. So I'm enjoying the pattern so far. It's definitely, it's just an 8-row repeat. Nothing too difficult about it. Yeah, these, I anticipate, you know, enjoying working on these. I just wish the yarn was more exciting, that's all. I was thinking about the title for this week's episode, and the name Frog Princess came into mind because once again, the projects I'm going to talk about involved some frogging and re-knitting in an attempt to get it just right. So as I mentioned already with those socks, I had tried a couple of different yarns and knit so far with them before frogging and going on to a different yarn choice. And this next project I'm going to talk about also involves some frogging and re-knitting. It is my So Faded by Andrea Mowry. And when I showed it to you last week, I had knit 2 colors of the Malabrigo Makita or Machita. I'd completed those 2 colorways, and the third yarn I had chosen, which was a Madeline Tosh Merino light colorway, it didn't work. It was a pretty good match for color, but the yarn was lighter and it just did not complement the Makita or Machita as well as I'd hoped. So just as a refresher, I began with 889 Musas, which had a lot of purple in it. And then I had moved on to Sherry, which is 883, which had a lot of blue. And I told you that I had ordered a skein that I thought would complement these 2, called Wales Road, and that is color 247. Oops. And it came in, yes, it definitely matched up really well with these yarns. You can see they really blend well. So I wound up the Wales Road and started working on it, and I kept thinking that even though it it worked in this order, I kept thinking that it would be so much better in this order. You know where this is going, don't you? Because there's a lot of purple in the Muses, and then there's a really sort of equal blend of blue and purple in the Wales Road, and then there's more blue in the Sherry. And I just really liked the idea of the color progression going like this. And so I did take back the Sherry, and I've washed the yarn, reclaimed it, so I will use this again. And I've started re-knitting this body of the sweater with the Wales Road, and I'm very happy with how it's going. I'm going to spread that out a bit. It definitely was the right move to find a third skein of the original yarn to use, both because the colors blend really well, but also because the weight of the yarn is the same, but also just because the dyeing method is the same, and so avoiding any sort of really awful pooling. I'm really happy with how these yarns are knitting up. So there you go. So yeah, I'm not as far as I was last week, but at the same time, I think my overall sweater is going to be better for it. And so there we go. This has been a really easy one to work on. It is just stockinette. Now I've started some waist shaping on it, but this has been a good one. I've needed kind of quote mindless knitting this week, not feeling so well, and this has been a really easy one to pick up and put down. So I'm enjoying that very much. And I really like working with this yarn. It's soft, it feels good as I knit it. So yeah, happy with how that's going. And the third project, work in progress. If you do not want to be spoiled, please go away for a little while and come back. I'm going to talk about Helen Stewart's mystery shawl knit along, the Impressionist MCAL, as she calls it. So yeah, if you don't want to see, I'm telling you now to look away. So I'm just looking for a yarn label here. I know it was sitting on my thing before I started recording. Oh, well, I'll just have to do without it unless it pops out at me. So last week I showed you my progress as far as Clue 1. So as a reminder, this is what it looked like. So again, you might suspect by me showing you that maybe it doesn't look like that anymore, and you would be correct. When Clue 2 came out, it continued with a few rows of the, alternating rows with color C. And I just felt like being color C did not have enough contrast to them. So I'm going to show you the yarns and the order I originally had started knitting them. So this is Ancient Arts Fingering Sock in the Tea and Biscuits colorway. And that was my color A, and I had matched it up with this Kinfolk Yarn and Fiber. This is the label. I'm not sure where it got to. This is in the Port Moody colorway, and it's just a superwash merino nylon sock yarn also. And then my color C was this skein of Malabrigo sock in 853 Abriel. So when they were knit up, these two looked, there wasn't much contrast between them. And so I decided to frog the whole thing and start over and make this color A, this color B, and this color C. Because, and then what I realized as I was knitting is these two are, at least so far, are never beside each other. There's always this one in the middle that separates them, and I just think they play off each other well. I think these match really well, but they work better, I think, when they're separated by these. Now, I don't know what's coming up, and there might be a time where these two actually do have to sit next to each other, but hopefully they're in big enough color blocks that they won't blend too much, because what I found is the striping with these two was really lost. So here is what I have done up to the end of clue 2, and then you'll see a little bit more of what I'm talking about. So on the right side, there you go. So as you can see then, I've started off with the more blue, striped in the tea and biscuits, and then this is where I'm talking about. Here is just 3 rows or 3 stripes of color C that come into play, and they definitely stand out more this way than they did when I had used these in the opposite order. And now we've moved on to another section of striping, and then and then this lace section. So I'm anxious to see what comes next. This now has less of a fading or blended look to it, but I just feel like it shows this yarn off to better advantage, and you know, I'm happy with it. I'm looking forward to seeing what comes next. We're, I think, 52% through the shawl now, and obviously with the amounts of yarn I have left over of color A and color C, they, you know, I know they'll come into play more at the end, and I'll be interested to see if color B makes another appearance. So anyway, there we go. That's where I am with that. I haven't been reading a whole lot this week, but I have at night read the occasional chapter of Appointment with Death by Agatha Christie, which is set in the Middle East. It's interesting, I'm like that far through the book and nobody's died yet, which I do know who the murder victim is supposed to be, but there's a lot of setup happening in this book, and it's written through the eyes of what I would call I was going to say a detached character, and she's not entirely detached because she's taking quite an interest in the family in which this murder will take place. But yeah, it's just written a little bit differently than her other books. So I am quite enjoying it. There seems to be, I guess, maybe a little bit more character development that's taking place. And even though Hercule Poirot is a part of this book, he's made very, very few appearances so far. Although, of course, I know he will get more involved later once the murder takes place. But yeah, it's just been enjoying reading this, and as I say, written a little bit differently than her others. I acquired a new book this week, and this one's very special because it was authored by my daughter, Jessica Johnson. Called My Name is the Borgan, and it is part of a series of pagan children's books. My daughter is pagan. This is her contribution to what's called the Girl God series, which are stories about various goddesses throughout the ages. And you might know the Morgan better as Morgan Le Fay, sister of King Arthur. That's one of her names. So yeah, it's beautiful, beautiful quality book. I wish you could feel what the cover feels like. It's very smooth, velvety almost. And the illustrator is Erna Bartz. So some beautiful, beautiful illustrations in here. show you a few. She has a really cool style. So anyway, that was very exciting. Jessica's signed it for me, and yeah, I think it's very cool. You can actually order it on Amazon, so good for her. That's a really cool, it's just a really neat accomplishment for her, and very proud of what she's done. So very special. As for what else has been going on this past week, as I mentioned last week, we were taking part in a bonspiel to close out our old curling club. There's a new one being built right next door, which is supposed to be ready for the fall. So as I had mentioned Tuesday night, our game, we just got annihilated, but we played much better Thursday night. We were playing against a really good team, and we were even ahead for a while, although they did eventually beat us. The next game was Saturday morning, and we started off pretty weak, but we ended up having a chance to tie it up in the end. But unfortunately, the other team did score a point to beat us. But it was, you know, definitely we're pulling up our bootstraps by the end of that game. And they just had lots of lucky bounces. It's funny how that's the case sometimes. It's not always that the other team curls that much better. It's just that they seem to get the lucky breaks. And sometimes it happens to us. So then we had went back for dinner. We were on the early dinner because we were curling that evening. So had a very nice dinner, and then we curled at 8:15. Sorry, my eyes are just caught. There's just an eagle right across the street, just soaring. I don't know if I can capture it for you or not, but I will try. Sorry, I tried to capture that for you, but I flew up out of sight. It's just you don't see one that close that often, so I definitely was distracted. Yeah, anyway, what was I saying? So Saturday night we played our fourth game, and we ended up winning that one, which put us, meant that we had to come back Sunday morning to play again. And we had a potential playing 2 games on Sunday. If we won our Sunday morning game, then we would play off for our division in the afternoon. But as it turned out, we again had quite a close game, but did lose Sunday morning's game. So we were done. I can't say I was too sorry. I was right in the middle of my cold, not feeling my best all that weekend, and neither was Allison feeling very well. So I don't think we would have loved to have won and gone on, you know, to compete, but at the same time, I was kind of happy to have the rest of Sunday off. But yeah, it was a good experience. I'd never been in a bonspiel before, and definitely will do so again. It was really cool to see our club so active, so many people there, and I've only curled for 4 years, but I feel more of a part of the community. There's a lot more people. You know, I meet new people all the time, and there definitely had a sense of camaraderie at the club. It was quite a great atmosphere. So yeah, I look forward to doing that in the future. I think the only other notable thing that happened this week is my sister Janine came over Tuesday evening, and we planned out our road trip for the summer. We mapped out our route to and from Minneapolis, and booked all of our accommodations. So all of a sudden it's starting to seem very real. We're going to be gone almost 2 weeks. We're away 12 nights in all. So yeah, getting very excited about that now for sure. Ball did start. I did go last Wednesday night after all, and it wasn't nearly as cold as I expected, but I was well dressed for it. My hero sweater came in handy, and all wrapped up in a blanket, and we had a very good game. Only lost by 2, and it rained, but it was never like a steady downpour. I opted out of going to ball last night, partly because it was miserable weather, and partly because I still wasn't feeling well, and I didn't think yelling out the lineup would do much good for my voice. So I was happy to stay home, and as it turned out, it was quite a short game, and the subsequent games of the evening were canceled because of weather. It was raining, so our team got in their game, but they did not have a very good game. But yeah, that's about it for the week. We do have concert coming up. I think it's Monday, and it's actually quite local. It's only the next city over. We're going to see Steve Miller and Peter Frampton on Monday night. So that, we grew up with them. It's our kind of music. So definitely looking forward to that concert. Other than that, not much exciting. I'm just planning to try and get more rest this week and get over this this cold. Yeah, that's about it. Nothing other than that notable going on. So on that note, I can hear my voice fading. I'm going to go have some lunch and roasted a chicken earlier this week and made some soup. So I'm going to go have some chicken rice soup and let this upload to the computer. Hopefully the editing doesn't take too long and I can get this up later today. So not my best episode. I'm sorry about that, but I really did want to connect with you this week. I didn't want another week to have to go by. So take care of yourselves. Thanks as always for watching, and yeah, happy knitting. Bye.